I asked this question because I think I'm well equipped to ask the question since I had experience both in Morocco and abroad, and the
Mhm.
difference is very large. Difference very huge, as we say. There are various things. For example, public universities abroad. Specifically, I'm going to mention my experience, which is Turkey.
Yes,
Uh,
please.
So universities in Turkey, there's no difference between public and private. They are both the same. In Morocco, we know we know for sure that uh, Turkey is one of the most well-established countries when it comes to universities and studies and so on. But I do think on the opposite side, I'm going to be the devil's advocate and say that in Morocco we do have good teachers, we do have good material. It's just that the execution, which lacks, I don't know. It's just that we could have more. We could put more into onto the table, and we just don't. This is the
Mhm.
way I saw it back when I was in university.
Mhm.
I don't really know about much about the years or like the subjects I'm gonna study, or if I'm gonna study them in Casablanca.
Mhm.
That's all.
I recommend FES. If you go to Talmeraz, there's so far I don't know if the master is still there, but the teachers are really well established. I really recommend FES to for you to take your master degree or master exam in FES. There are
But
two
it,
universities.
but it
I'm
depends
sorry,
in
sir?
oh, depends in which field he wants to get his master degree, because each each master is specific to something about translation, about communication, about so on. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
yeah,
I
just
exactly. Linguistics, mostly linguistics. If
yeah.
you wanna excel in linguistics, I recommend FES or McNess. FES, McNess, and there's
no, not
another one.
really.
Marrakesh too is the
I
basic.
just want to see. That's all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, FES is the go-to for English. Maybe I'm biased. FES is really standing on solid grounds when it comes to English. I can promise you this. Especially masters, because most teachers there, I spoke to them face to face, and they really have potential, and they really work hard, and especially linguistics. You know, this field is not as easy as we thought it would be. So the proper guidance was needed, and when we asked for guidance, we found guidance only in FES. So that's the only place I
Yeah.
would recommend.
Not the only place. We may said Marrakesh too, and Qanitra also. There are many teachers who are good. You know.
I have a
Also
I
in
question.
think
Tangier or Rabat, I think.
Yeah. What about abroad? If I wanted to like study my master's abroad.
with the pandemic and the COVID-19, it's a little
Of
bit
course,
difficult.
I think if you want to study abroad,
No, I know it's
it's now
difficult.
it's. But if you try to find a scholarship, you know, it will help you a lot, isn't it,
I
guys?
think, Mr. Alali, I think 2020 or 2021 or post-COVID is the worst year to apply for anything that has to do with moving abroad. I might
Yeah.
be pessimistic a little bit, but it's realism at the same time,
Yeah, yeah.
because I applied to Russia, and they answered. This was in the midst of coronavirus or before. Uh, and they said you have one choice, which is to study online for a while. Back then it was just a while. We didn't know it would go on this far, and they said you study online and then you continue after this thing is blows over, as the British say. It didn't. It went now for how much? Shaima, how much did it go for? I think it's 2 years now.
God knows how long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think COVID-19 is making everything difficult.
If you live in Morocco, you have to adjust with that, and you have to try to get higher grades so that you are given a chance to go to the next level if you're willing to do that. All right. With that being said, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the freedom of speech and the way I see it, and then we'll go from there and talk about a little bit talk about social media. A certain you can express a certain view or talk about a certain topic, criticize a certain person without going to jail. If you saw the U.S. Constitution, it guarantees that right. People can criticize the president. They can criticize pretty much anything they want, and they don't go to jail. And with the freedom of speech comes also on the First Amendment comes freedom of the press, and of course freedom of religion, of having a religion and not or not having a religion, which is it was revolutionary at the time. So that's why I use it as a reference because it's still relevant. There are still countries that can take you to jail for saying certain things, and not just Morocco, even in Europe. If you criticize or if you say you deny the Holocaust, you can either pay a fine or you can even risk going to jail for anti-Semitism claims. So yeah, without going too much into the details, I believe that freedom of speech is very essential. It's very important for every human being. We are talking species. Talking is essential for our lives and for our mental sanity. If you are told to shut up and not say anything and just listen, you're going to feel oppressed, and this can affect your mental health. It can affect your development, and so on and so forth. And we've seen that happen in so many instances, including our Moroccan schools, in which the teacher talks the entire time. Children most of the time are not allowed to interject. They are given an opportunity to ask questions sometimes, but you're not allowed to interject or disagree with the teacher or the professor. It's very it can be very oppressive as an environment, and I believe even in education, children or professors should be allowed to interject and disagree. Children and students in higher education should be allowed to interject and disagree with the professor without fearing that there will be corrective actions or risking the grades to be lower. So that's a very important part that we should mention, and it leads to a lot of people actually not or being afraid to speak up. It creates people who are fearful, who are fearful to actually stand up in front of an audience, or fearful to speak up their minds. And I remember this professor, a friend of mine, who just mentioned it yesterday. I think he was an engineer. Anyway, so one of the people that discussed this topic with me yesterday said, if you look at the rankings in terms of, for example, mathematics in the US, maybe children in the US are not ranked on the top in the world, but when it comes to confidence, they're number one in the world, because kids are taught at a very early age to be confident, to speak up, and then to speak their mind, and to say when things are not right, to talk about it and to express it. And you guys have seen recently on Black Lives Matter movement, people are going in the streets, they're speaking up and talking about the things that they're passionate about without being arrested, unless they do certain things that are illegal, like destruction, burning, and crimes. But yeah, they're allowed to go in the streets and scream and say things about the president and say things about the government without fearing for their safety. So that's the first piece. That is not, and I'm not trying to make this political, but it's still not a right especially in the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, and that's the source of a lot of frustrations. If you have questions, I can answer, but if you allow me, I can go on to the next piece of this, or next part of this, which is social media and its relation to freedom of speech. Back to you.
Okay,
I yield back.
I just want to comment on your comment. I do think that our educational systems in the Middle East And also in Morocco, are didactic. They don't give you the freedom of speech or the ability or the chance to develop your critical thinking, you know? So I give you the idea and you have to swallow it. And then you submit my idea on the exam paper and I give you the certificate. However, there are some schools that are trying to integrate the international baccalaureate program, and it's they believe that a child can help in process of education. A child can help you prepare for your lesson, and so it's not only a receiver. They strongly emphasize on developing their critical thinking. So it's happening. I hope in a few years it's gonna be going to be all around the Middle East, and people are going to be able to speak freely and say their opinions.
Agreed. Does anyone else, do you guys have any questions, or do you want me to go on?
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question. I think you get this question a lot, which is to basically talk about the differences between the United States and Morocco in many fields or many domains. What is for you as an American who has been living in America for so long? What is for you the most memorable points that you noticed and that made you think that Morocco has issues, definitely has issues? I need to know from your perspective, from your scope.
Oh, that's a handful. That's a question that I can talk about for probably for hours, but I will try to be concise. And I think the concept of meritocracy and the concept of justice and the concept of applying laws that are already on the books, because Morocco has a lot of good laws on the books, but they're not applied, and they're not applied on a consistent basis. Sometimes they're applied on some people, sometimes they're not, and that's what makes it very dangerous, because it's not, there's no equality in applying the legal texts that we have. In many ways, if you read the text, you'll realize that a lot of them are fair, but the fairness, the lack of fairness comes from the justice system, the application of those texts, and so on and so forth. So that's one issue. Of course, freedom of speech is part of it. It's another issue. The ability to say whatever I wanted to say without risking going to jail is really liberating, right? Liberating for me. Also, the ability to reach your full potential, as long as you work hard enough for it. There's a lot of things that stand in the way for a lot of ambitious, smart Moroccan people, men and women alike, with a lot of potential, with a lot of vision and a lot of ambition and a lot of things in mind that they want to realize. A lot of you guys have been able to accomplish some of these goals in Morocco. I don't discount that, but it's just that in the US, there's a lot more ability to do those things and reach your full potential, whether from an educational standpoint or from entrepreneurial standpoint. One more thing I want to add is that the ability that society here looks at people for the most part. We're not going to talk about exceptions, but for the most part, I'm going to say most of the time on a daily basis, you will see that people are looked at equally, whether you are a billionaire, millionaire, or a person that is considered poor. You're not looked at in a way that you're less important than me. I can see that in the dynamic. For example, if you go to a restaurant and you are a millionaire, you can stand in line with people who are, a lower middle class or poor even. But if you don't have a reservation, you don't have a seat. I don't care if you're a billionaire, you'll wait in line. Same thing when you go to a lot of institutions, whether government institutions, or whether it is private institutions. So you'll see that people cannot get into certain places because of their privilege or because of their money. You can be accepted in higher education institutions only by showing merit or showing that you're able to access those institutions. Of course, there are exceptions, and when they are caught, they are really heavily and reprimanded. I mean, there is accountability, and abuse of power is usually punished severely. And we've seen a governor that went to jail for 12 years for abusing his power. The ex-governor of Illinois back in 2009. But anyway, so these are the things, and the absence of the concept of al-hujra. I don't have an explanation for it or a translation for it in English, but I like to say it in Darija because it goes straight to the heart. Al-hujra does not exist here, and if somebody tries to apply it on you, you can actually get the law involved and get your get justice. Nobody's perfect. No society is perfect, but at least when you have those foundations, they allow you to live a very healthy life, if you will.
I'm gonna have to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but I have one very important question, which is it's a topic which is discussed widely now in the United States, which is political correctness. Uh, it's I think it's not recent. It's not a recent topic. It's not until lately that it has really made its way into or people have become conscious about it. Now, the media is facing a lot of backlash for political correctness. Some YouTubers, some podcasts. I just want to know your take on political correctness as a whole in Morocco or third world countries or in the entire world as is.
Yeah, well, the difference, and I don't want to take too much of your time, guys. You guys can interject anytime, but this is a very good question because it really is tied to the freedom of speech concept. In the United States, the government does not take you to jail, but people put you in some sort of a metaphorical jail.
Cancel.
Yeah, exactly. So you say something and they hold you to it. That's really still not popular in Morocco because it's the government job to hold you to it. People are still not using that against you. And even in France, the cancel culture is actually a product of the United States because of there's so much freedom of speech that now people are trying to play police, especially now with social media. They'll literally, if you say something that they don't agree with, they'll literally try to shame you and then destroy your brand. So if they look at your profile and you said that you work for a particular company, so they'll this particular company, tag them on Twitter and say, how can you guys employ this person with such and such view? And then they start that process of cancel culture. They put the company on the spot. The company cares about branding. They don't want their brand reputation to be harmed, and therefore they don't want to lose money. They don't want to lose millions of dollars for employing a person with very controversial views. Therefore, they end up firing that person in many instances. So, and it happened with Delta Airlines. It happened with a lot of companies. And for example, I'll give you and also the sponsorship. Let's say the example of this guy that he's playing golf, right? So he's playing golf and he just missed the target by an inch. And then he said this word that is considered homophobic, just talking to himself. He was not saying it to anyone. He was talking to the actual ball. And then the microphones caught his words, and his sponsors, even though he had to apologize after that, the sponsors actually dropped him. Ralph Lauren did drop him because they did not want to be associated with a homophobic, quote unquote, person. So it can get out of hand, and we've seen it recently with companies or social media platforms that are removing people for their views because they don't want to be associated with these people. And it's a slippery slope because once you start removing people you disagree with, you get into this you know, now
Concerning this application, have you got an idea about it?
Oh, this application is like every year has a hot potato. I think the hot potato of this year is Clubhouse, and I
Yeah.
just think yeah, it's just a publicity stunt by Apple. I think like come on, it's an application. There are thousands of other applications that also exist on Android. So what's the fuss about it if it's only on an iPhone? Of course, I'm not gonna buy an iPhone just because of an application. That's just my take
Well,
on it.
this application person hosts a group of people and they're discussing a topic. And you can see on the room, on the door of the room, the topic that they're discussing. So you enter the room and then you, if you want to participate and talk about the, you know, the ideas they're sharing, you raise your hand and the host can give you the permission to speak. Oprah uses this application. What's his name?
Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, and that one, the Musk, also used. You could bump into famous people there, and I mean, yeah, you can. If you have this feeling like you don't want to turn your camera on, and it's just audios, you know, you can speak. However, I think the limiting the application to iPhone users, it's a little bit, yeah.
It's 100. I'm not a conspiracy guy, but it's obvious that it is a publicity stunt, especially since public figures are openly saying that they are using it, and all you can discuss with them, you can talk with them. But it does sound like a publicity stunt.
Post-COVID goals. So yeah, have you got any goals after COVID-19?
I have a couple of goals. I really wanna be like a really good teacher. Like I want to make class fun. I want students to love to study English. I want it to be the highlight of their week, as opposed to just a necessity or a class they have to pass or something. Because last year I had class, it was public speaking, and the teacher made it really fun.
Favorite
He
part
taught
of
us.
the public speaking.
Yeah, I had this big fear of public speaking. I couldn't even stand up and speak without like feeling anxious or stuff like that. But the teacher like really, and I kind of loved it. I kind of like want to teach public speaking too, so I can inspire other kids or like, other students to be like me and like the teacher.
Yeah, it happens.
I think I really want to teach in university. Now I don't really know about the masters. Like I don't have any information about like the master year.
Okay, I wish you all the best.